And you lie. Why lie?
Because you're normal.
Excuse me?
I said because you're normal. You're ungrateful. We fight, risk our lives for you. Evil mutants, robots, crazy aliens. I gave him up. I gave him up because you can't say thank you. Because I have to stomach your questions and prove that I'm a person. I lie because the truth is we're nothing like you. Thank God, because it's the only reason you people are still alive.
Go ahead, Kareem.
I mean, let's go ahead and skip episode 5. Let's talk about episode 6. So in episode 6, we pick back up with the
nothing's happened. Nothing's happened at all in episode.
Yeah, nothing happened at all.
Everything they have outside of cheated. You pick back up with the owl story.
Yeah, they do.
We're back on X91.1 out of Genosha. What's left of it? This dedication goes out to little Anna Maria, our daughter Rose, from Mystique. Sorry, everyone you love always dies.
I don't know why someone would create that song. Yeah, so we start off. Are you playing a song? Because I don't hear anything.
Okay. I was playing the Ace of Base song.
Okay.
Was that the Ace of Base song?
Which one? The Ace song they play in the show.
Happy Nation?
Oh, yeah. That didn't sound like Happy Nation, but maybe. Wait. So I'm a quick pause here, though. Cream, are you not hearing the music when he plays it?
No, I don't even hear his mic. Like, I saw him singing to it, and it just wouldn't mute.
That's so weird. I heard the music.
I got the copyright version of StreamYard.
That's fair. Like they already hit him with the audio strike, but I heard the music, but that didn't sound like the song. But that's cool. It's the same one you played earlier, though, right? I'm not.
No, I played Wiz Khalifa. I actually switched them. I think I should have played Happy Nation the first time, but you get the gist. It's fine.
I'll change.
Okay, both those songs sounded exactly the same to me on my end, and he didn't hear it at all. Something is going on with our equipment.
The adversary is mucking around in here.
No! Oh, we can't be seen! Oh, no! We can't be recorded! that didn't go well for him the last couple weeks.
That's fair.
That's sure.
Just for the listeners, Ken just did the John Cena "You Can't See Me," which turns out The Rock can indeed see him. So
saw him, whooped his ass.
Kareem, go ahead. Give us a breakdown, a shakedown.
We start off
everything else
episode with I guess they're doing some kind of like,
this guy gets it.
I don't know, interview behind the scenes of the X Mansion or something now that mutants have been accepted by the UN as I guess Genosha has been accepted by the UN as its own nation. So they go and interview the X-Men, and they have this kind of like, I guess, prelude, because this is 97. This is before reality TV becomes a big thing.
It's a 2020 interview.
Basically, yeah. But we also get sort of behind the scenes of it, though.
Right.
So I forget the name of the lady. Who is it? Trish? Who eventually becomes like Beast's girlfriend or something like that?
Yeah, Trish. What is the
Tilby?
Trish the Dish.
I don't know. Essentially, yes. She's interviewing them. It starts with Scott because Jean couldn't be bothered to be found. She decided to go be Moses and part the weird sea wherever she's at. They kind of float through some
She's
memories.
in the lake out back. She's out by the lake.
Yeah.
They have a lake.
She's dealing with
she's like in the lake, though, but like she's part of the water, so it doesn't touch her, which is weird. Seems like a unnecessary reason to use telekinesis. Could she just gone on the lawn?
No. She wanted to be away from prying eyes, but also work on training her powers and put little memories in all the little bubbles and kiss Wolverine out of prying eyes way.
Yeah, exactly. Wolverine walks up behind her. Again, Scott's in the house being interviewed. Jean's outside. Wolverine comes up to her and is trying to figure out, hey, what are you doing? She's saying, hey, I'm trying to figure out which memories are mine, which ones are Madeline's. Everything's a little bit confusing. She goes on this whole monologue about how the Phoenix Force called to her to explore universes, but she stayed because Scott's got beautiful eyes that she somehow was able to see because the Phoenix Force held everything back or whatever. So that's why she stayed, because of 2 brown eyes.
And nothing happened. Jean was using the power of the Phoenix to block my optic blasts, and we could see each other's eyes.
They anchored me, focused me. His eyes, made me stay.
While that's happening, Scott is giving an interview to Trish Tilby where they are kind of telling the same story. Scott was not there's no reason they never should have put Scott in front of Cyclops in front of the cameras. It's clearly he's an emotional wreck. Like his kid was
He's the leader.
a week ago. Like, Beast, you're handling it. Go, get in there, champ. Just literally anyone else.
Well, that's the thing is they
to
do
be honest,
interview
to your
Beast,
point,
but I
it makes
think
more sense. Yeah.
Jubilee as well.
Yeah, they interviewed
Yeah.
Jubilee.
And then somehow Beast blushes through the blue fur and whatnot.
That's impressive.
That's the part of like, oh, like, how is it? He's got blue fur. Like, is that all right? He's that embarrassed. He's like, oh, my stars and garters, but I don't say it.
Yeah, I think Jubilee is actually the first part of the interview. Then they kicks over to Scott. While Scott and Matt or Jean go through their versions of what's happening in their lives. Jean ends up kissing Logan. He decides to like, hey, you know what? Now's not the time to try and take advantage of you because you have no idea who the fuck you are or what you're doing. So he tells her like, hey, go back to Scott. You guys figure that shit out. Don't come. I'm not your pity man.
Yeah, Wolverine's persecution.
I'll take advantage of you later.
Effect.
Exactly. When you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
That much better. So then I think at some point Scott ends up flipping a switch because
Trish asked about his son.
there we go. Which again,
Scott-
to her defense, she has no idea that the son is in the future.
Well, he should. Like, a murder investigation is opened up after this interview because he cannot answer where his son is. He cannot answer that question. And probably
I
should have.
mean, and then also like she brings up like the doctor said that you wouldn't deliver your son, and that sets him off even further. So part of me is like, this is a bit of a takedown like interview.
The doctor, that's the point. The doctor doesn't say that. He says something else, which really pisses Scott off. Scott says he wouldn't even deliver it. So the doctor actually takes credit for delivering the child. And Scott's like, whoa, that's not what fucking happened, which is why he goes. That's why. Thanks for clearing up. That's why he goes off because she asks, where's the child? He kind of dances around the question, and then she says, well, we have medical records and stuff like that. Like the doctor said he delivered it, and was so many ounces, whatever. And Scott goes like, well, he didn't. He said he wouldn't deliver it because he's a mutant. And he goes off and he goes into, what do they call him? Bright Clops? Is that what his name is? When he's, Scott was right.
Yeah.
And he gets angry Scott, militant Scott.
We are setting up Scott as Magneto. He does the line like, basically, you're only alive because we allow it. And you can't even be grateful for when we save you. Like he's clearly kind of fundamentally broken right now.
Yes.
But they are setting up Scott with the Scott was right.
Yeah. And that's when I think we get the line from B saying, oh my, because he realized that the interview just tanked.
Yeah. Which I mean, to be fair though, like this is a more, to a certain degree, it's a better, more appropriate response than the comics. Like the condensing of everything does like, it is like speeding timelines up, but it's also like, he should be pretty messed up right now. He shouldn't just be like, well, I remember when Madeline took my baby and went off because she was upset with me, and then I just went around and did space adventures with the guys. Yeah, like this is a better, more appropriate response to what actually to what happened in his world. That he's just like, this is just my it's turned upside down. Like I can't. Yeah. And instead of just like, time to go on another mission.
I fully expect after this that he is going to kind of go Magneto-y. Pretty once again, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. I guess we're covering all this before we get to the main event, right?
Well, I mean, this is how an order goes because the next scene is like he finally storms out of there, meets Jean as Jean's coming back from her kiss with Logan. No?
We cut to, I think we jump to Genosha because, or at least on the plane, because Magneto's like Rogue and
Magneto's throwing shade for no reason.
Yeah, Magneto's just tossing it left and right. He's like, you can't fly, so if this thing went up, I'd let you die. Like that's essentially what he's saying. Like you're dead weight on this ship.
This is taking forever. Gambit, please remember that should the new Blackbird suffer a malfunction, you are the only soul on board for whom gravity would most certainly be an issue.
Like, it's like, no one asked you, Magneto.
Yeah, because Magneto was trying to get it in, and now his third wheel's here, stopping progress. That's what's happening.
As far as time, if time is continuous on this show, he also tried to kill her too. and Gambit on several occasions. So I'm like, he forfeited the trying to sleep with the thing in between that when he fought them and tried to kill them. But
I mean,
either way,
X-Men. You just
not since the last 5 minutes though. Like it's fine.
yeah.
okay, not since he's been back.
Yeah. Not since he's been back.
So they land at Genosha, which is, I think, an allegory for Krakoa, the way they present it this time around. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say like they were very much like, let's just pull straight from Wakanda. Like that's like kind of the most like here's a.
Well, yeah, fair enough.
It's giving that vibes like hard, especially after the MCU version seeing that. But yes, it is going more towards the idea of like the mutant utopia of a private nation, like being able to be free, and it plays this the song we were talking about earlier, and they get met on the platform by I believe Val Cooper and Val Cooper and Moira,
Madeline.
not Moira,
Madeline.
Madeline, thank you.
Oh, Madeline, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because they explained like, hey, we're glad that you found a place since you left. And we don't know how long it's been since she's been gone, but enough to at least be an ambassador of some sort. And then they take them to the Quiet Council eventually, which they have that meeting, which is bring in from a more recent version of the X-Men run so far, which is why I say Krakoa, because it kind of has hints of that.
Yeah.
And they staff it with Moira, as you mentioned, which they make it a very strong point that she's a human on the council.
Yeah.
There's my one of my favorite, Emma is there. Emma Frost is there. It's White Queen. Sebastian Shaw. Who else was there? Who?
Banshee.
Banshee, and are we missing someone else?
I think that was it. Well, Madeline.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was confused because in the episode they show you Exodus, who happens to be on or was part of the recent Quiet Council.
He's just dancing with.
He's just a dancer out there.
Yeah.
One of the most powerful mutants.
Yeah.
Good.
One of the most powerful mutant dancers is what you're going to say.
Good
Yeah,
answer.
he's feeling the rhythm, feeling the rhyme. Come on, guys, it's X-Men time.
Nice. Good. We also get a peek back at one of our favorites from the old show, Nightcrawler. He's back and he's messing around with everybody. And he gives Gambit, who has been very suspicious, one of Magneto, but now of Krakoa of Genosha as well. He's looking at prices. He's wondering why how this is happening, and he's getting offhanded comments from Rogue that he's like, what the hell's going on about this? And Nightcrawler basically tells him like, hey, chill out. You're at a place of peace with friends. Why don't you enjoy it and maybe go marry Rogue finally? Quit stringing her along.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is that he's saying like, but why is it $10 here? And then to Nightcrawler's point, he's like, hey, this is a new nation. We're just starting, so if things are weird, things are a little bit off kilter, we're just getting started. And he's like, yeah, but also maybe Gambit's asking questions people don't like to ask. It's like he's dead on there. Like he's the lowest lane in this moment of like, hey, you know what? Maybe someone should be asking these questions.
Yeah, well, Sebastian Shaw is on the Quiet Council. So I can tell you exactly why they are $10 apples.
I mean, let's put it this way. The apples themselves are probably $1 or $2. Sebastian Shaw moved up to $5, then Emma needed her to make sure that she doesn't get cut out of anything. So it raised it all over the table.
I mean, that's the thing though too. Like we can get Black Tom over here and he's like, oh, you want some trees? Here's some trees. I got apple trees. I got pumpkins. You want pumpkins? I got pears. Like,
yo, you want to buy some toothbrushes, man? This is some real fly personal hygiene equipment I got here, man. And I got a hell of a hair dryer over here too. Check it out.
if we have these mutants who can do these things.
Who's to say that's not happening still?
And they're still just charging $10 for an apple.
Exactly.
They're like supply and demand. Like, you
gotta get the taste.
Fair enough.
It would be the most Hellfire Club thing they could possibly do.
We also get a bunch of cameo mutants. We get Dazzler. We finally figure out where she went to.
Yeah.
What's the guy with the pink skin muscle or gelatin looking guy?
Oh, we get Glob.
Glob.
We get Leech. We get Pixie.
Yeah.
I mean,
we get a bunch of like smaller ones too that you'd have to really dig into like some of the extra.
Yeah, you get Multiple Man up there. I love that one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We know where he is after the show.
Well, because that's the thing. He's an X Factor, So it's like that's another nod back to us just having.
So is Havoc around somewhere?
That's a good question, but like
No.
it's we just saw Forge though, so that's the tie there.
No.
I mean, who do you think Madeline's banging
100%
on
around.
that
Madeline's
island?
there. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's what Havoc. That's why Havoc goes to the island eventually. He's like, well, what? There's I hear my brother's sloppy seconds. Okay, let's go.
You're a sloppy second. I'm a sloppy second.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a sad boy being sad.
You summers are always so sad.
And that nothing revs Madeline's engine more. Speaking of which, go ahead, I was gonna let that was
No, you go. Keep going.
all right. At some point,
This is the Scott part. I'll let you talk about that.
yeah, we flip back over, and Scott is having a conversation with what we think is Jean, and they're talking about their life together, and they're talking about how confused he is, and then they flash to, well, what's something you can hold on to? And he holds on like, oh, Nathan, when he had my child, and then you had my child. So he's clearly not talking to Jean, he's talking to Madeline. And
He doesn't know that. Well, he knows that. But
well, he knows, but they kiss,
Yeah.
and then Jean busts in, and they're doing this on the psychic plane, and Jean busts in and pulls a famous line from the Grant Morrison X-Men run, which is, let me guess, you can explain, I believe is the exact wording of the line. The
Yeah,
psychic
it was
connection
awesome.
is broken. Madeline has been in the in the council meeting, like, hey, where were you? What's going on? Oh, nothing. Just thinking. And Emma, who is the one in the comic that was having the affair with Scott, says, oh, yeah, you were, or something like, oh, and some interesting thoughts, because she's a telepath, so she was listening in.
She's probably watching.
Good dog.
Knowing I'm doing
It, like there needs to be like a deleted scene where like Emma's just in the corner of the room watching, like with a brandy.
Oh,
Like that's like that's just
That would've
the
been
cropped out
perfect.
part.
Yes, that fantastic. And just like, and it's just hanging around psychically watching Jean and Scott fight now, just like hanging in the background. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It was exciting. Damn. Scott and Jean have a big kind of blow up about everything. Scott says he's confused and doesn't know. Jean says, I gave up everything, the stars for you. They're really finally having it out about everything going on. And then suddenly Jean gets like hit in the head psychically. Like you see kind of an explosion in her head. She just bends over in pain.
Yes. During that fight, like you said, I was very interested to see how they wrote this, because I thought they were going to have like a clear-cut bad person in the situation, and it seemed like they were setting up Scott to be that, especially after he had his explosion with Trish on live TV. You're like, all right, he's unraveling. You did a lot of great work for him in the first couple episodes to like kind of build him up as this hero. Now he's on his descent, so to speak, but they both have lines that are cutting, which I thought was interesting, especially for people who are in sort of a relationship, for them to go as hard at each other as they did, which, you know, again, I think whoever helped write these particular scenes did a really good job, because, you know, he mentions that she talks about, you know, giving up the stars for him, which I don't, you know, he never asked her to do that, but it feels like she's trying to put that on his shoulders. Like, hey, you know, you're the reason why I'm not doing better in my life or doing something else different, more grandiose than being with you. And he's explaining to her, like, hey, you don't even know, do you even know me? You know, what you said you gave up for, is that really what you're giving up? Or, you know, the idea of me is more, you know, more important to you than
Like
actually me, because I'm right here in front of you.
Yeah, it was something like, do you love me or the memory of me or something like, yeah.
Yeah. Am I just a sweet, or just.
That wasn't love in there. It's ego. The music's changing and you need a chair. Leader, father, husband.
And you? You don't trust your memories. Do you even love me?
My love for you is the one thing I remember amid this pain and insanity.
Remember or feel? Choose, Jean.
Do not spin this on me.
Do you love me, Jean? Or am I just a lovely memory?
A beautiful memory or something to that extent. So I, you know, like I said, when you walk away from that scene, it isn't like, oh, he is in the wrong or she's being a bitch. It was kind of like, okay, well, they're both really dealing with what's going on.
Yeah, they both have points. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's just like we're going to put a little bit of the marriage story just right in the middle of this, just right in the middle of X-Men. Just plop that down right there.
I mean, with Jean and Scott, that's basically what you get.
That's, yes. All right.
Then we come back to the Quiet Council, I think, explaining that they have a new plan, basically, to present themselves to the rest of the world with Magneto at the helm. And they're like, hey, we want you to be there. He explains like, hey, I never wanted this shit. Like this is Xavier's dream. I just want to kill humans, basically.
Yeah, he says this, which I think a lot of people are also like, does he mean this? Is this a lot of orchestration?
He's got a statue there on the island.
Right, exactly. And that's when like a lot of people are kind of like, I mean, when I say people, I mean viewers who are like, I mean, this is exactly what you say if you want them to like, oh no, give me the hard sell, but so I can be like, oh no, I couldn't. I'm so sorry, I couldn't have any more. Oh yes, I'll take another serving, thank you. Like, yeah, he it feels like he could be playing them at times. I'm like, is he? Because it's Magneto, so you're like always just like, you're off.
I mean, to his point though, I'm surprised no one's asked. Like, this is this is actually the opposite of what Xavier wanted. This is what you wanted. You want it to be, you believe in segregation. He believed in integration. Like he wants mutants to be back in New York, being able to live this sort of life. You want your own island. You want to establish your own, culture, your own people, things like that. This is what you wanted. Anyway, he says, I'll think about it, but under one condition. I get my bitch back. And people are scratching their like, what are you talking about? And this is where he offers the proposition to Rogue, and she's kind of flipping, or she's angry about it. She's like, was this your plan? I don't belong at your side to a certain extent. He explains to her like, hey, because of your ability, your powers, your level of empathy, you're gonna be the perfect person for this. Plus, I need someone to have sex with, so
That's a heck of a line. Those writers are very straight to the point.
Yeah,
well, I mean, they messed around with the Scott and Jean. They go straight to the point with Rogue and Magneto.
Yeah.
So she
makes his case. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So she leaves upset, and you kind of don't know what she's about to do. She ends up going to tell Gambit everything finally. Everything she had been suspicious about from the first 2 episodes or so. She sits him down and explains to him that, like, hey, we have a Beauty and the Beast kind of story that it happened before you and I met, where I needed help with my powers. My mom told me there's a guy that could help me. He ended up, teaching me about, more mutant history and some other things, and all the things he had planned as far as, Genosha and like a whole mutant island, a whole mutant culture and all these things. And we happened to be able to touch because magnetism. I've never really bought that part of the story, but
electromagnetic fields. I mean,
there we go.
Yeah,
magnetism is the solution to every problem in Marvel.
Yeah, seems to be.
Yeah,
or
they need it to be. Yeah,
doohickey.
Yeah, and so because they could touch, it's implied that they had some kind of physical relationship, to whatever degree. You do see Magneto laying in bed and her kind of standing by a window, so you're led to believe that they at least slept together at some point. Gambit is sitting there throwing his cards into the fire as she's telling this elongated story.
He was just,
yeah, he's very quiet at this point. She explains to him that this is what his plan is, for me to like be his queen and stuff. And Gambit's even explaining to her like, hey, being able to touch him is one thing. Like, I love you regardless, and if this is what you're choosing to do from here on out, you and I are just gonna be friends. Which I thought was actually pretty stand-up of him. Like, they could have went in a bunch of toxic directions with this part of the story, and I don't think they did.
Which is interesting because it's like we talked about this during our couples episode. It's like Gambit's always been like really like a straight arrow with all this. Like,
but Gambit's Letty.
Yeah, Gambit's like
Rogue's being a dog right now.
I mean, but Letty without the memory issues, at least, like, she's like, I don't know what I wanted. He's like, no, just like Letty movie 1, and like, yeah, like he's died. Like, no, this is who I want to be with, and he like from the word go, like, there's before when he was married. Actually, I don't know if he was. I don't think he was infidelis. I don't think he was. I think he was true to his fiance at the time, right?
Yeah,
he's true to her at the time, but like they broke up and he left, and but like he's not like. I don't.
That's how the
I
houses
think
come together.
Didn't they get? Well, they wasn't. Didn't he leave at the wedding? He left at the wedding, so they never
dead too.
Yeah,
what's up?
I think that's some dude. She supposedly died at one point too.
No, she's back. She comes back.
No, I said, but she supposedly died.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
So like, there's
Yeah,
like,
he's never been known as a cheater.
He's not
I mean, he's been
Wolverine.
known as-
He's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not like hit it and quit it and go on to the next one. He's like, no,
The
no,
best
this
in
is
what I do.
Sired children everywhere.
yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Being a
I
deadbeat
mean,
cat.
he's a philanderer with in a relationship. He needs to be very dedicated. When he's not, he's not. Yeah. But he tells her like, hey, you know what? We'll just be friends from this point out. Like I said, walks out the room, leaves her. The next thing we get is what I say because we get what seems to be like a gala. Everyone's there to kind of see what's about to happen as far as Magneto taking the helm. Rogue shows up, and just to rub it in Gambit's face a little bit more, she flies in, and Magneto flies towards her, just to kind of harken back to their previous conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the extra salt in the wound. Like, oh yeah, by the way, you still can't fly. Like, thanks.
Not only can you not touch me, you can't fly either. What else can you do, Gambit? Speak where people can understand you. Oh, just burning this guy left and right. He's sitting there next to Madeline at the bar, watching this in slow motion as the two of them kind of take center stage. Everyone's kind of looking at them. They're floating around each other and finally interlock hands and then eventually lips. And Gambit's had enough of this and storms out. I think Archangel and some other people who can fly all start flying and dancing around them as this scene's going on. Madeline decides to also leave, and she gets a vision.
She sees Gambit like heartbroken. She's like, oh, like Gambit's like, I'm not gonna stay here and watch this. I'm out. Peace.
Yeah.
And he steps out, and then she follows him shortly thereafter, or at least she steps out. I shouldn't say follows him, but she leaves as well. And that's when something happens, and
she gets shot psychically as well. The same.
That's what it is. That's the problem. Which it happens, and she doesn't go like tell anybody. She's just like, oh, let me just step aside and just like, no, like this is the attack. Like,
I mean, who would you tell though, and what would you say?
Whoever is right next to you. I've been attacked. Help me. Someone help me. Like,
well, but it happens as that happens. She's kind of recovering, and suddenly a portal opens, and a grizzled old guy comes out with guns and pouches everywhere.
No, but she walks outside.
Remember, she sees
she walks past other people. Like, there's people around. Was my point? Is like when you get psychically attacked, then you tell people. Like, this is why. Like,
but that's what I'm saying, Ken. Though you're gonna sound like a lunatic because no one's understand you except me.
Well, I'm Jean Grey for what everyone knows. Okay, pay attention to. I'm aside from.
And again, if you're Jean Grey and you get psychically attacked, who is going to help you?
No one's going to help me, but they're all prepared because shit just happened. Like, that's kill someone.
Yeah, but they are in a room full of mutants.
Omega level.
She had a similar vision when she was talking to Jean in the previous episode. Like, it isn't like whatever she saw in her head was going to immediately happen. It was like she's seen some of these images already before.
She's
seeing them again.
She's bleeding. Tell someone.
Okay, so
that's what I'm saying. How are they help her?
But they don't have to be able to help her. Just you want them to be aware that I'm under attack.
That's what I'm saying.
Get down.
You keep saying like, she already had visions similar to that already, and nothing happened at that time. She went on to go help Genosha, however many months or time it's been. So even if she has visions at that exact moment, it doesn't mean that they're going to happen 30 seconds later like they do. She could just take it and be like, all right, I've seen this before. This time my nose is bleeding. That's the only difference.
I took it as she stepped outside to I took it as she stepped outside to recover and like figure out, wait, what just happened?
That's what I'm saying. She did.
Take it as like she didn't tell anyone because she didn't understand what was going on. She probably should have. She didn't.
Yeah, she probably should have.
What is she going to say?
Wouldn't matter.
To who?
Like,
I just had a psychic vision of this island being destroyed that I had 6 months ago when we were founding it as well.
I just say like something just happened. I felt like a psychic attack, and like just again tell anybody. I don't care. No one's gonna be able to like, oh well, we can help. We can psychically repair your mind, but something just happened that is a fairly monumental moment as one of the most powerful psychics on the planet. Tell someone so they can be like, okay, well.
So let's imagine she tells Banshee. Guess what happens to him 2 minutes later?
Oh, in those 2 minutes, they all could have been prepared for the oncoming onslaught.
Prepared for what? They didn't. She didn't even know what she was looking at.
No, that's later.
Yeah, different. I'm sure we'll get to that next season.
We'll get that. Yeah.
All right. So she steps outside to recover before she tells anybody, if that was indeed her plan. And like Pat says, grizzled man comes pushing people out of the way, saying, "Now he he was your warning, and still no one listened to him. Let's just put it that way. He kept saying, "You all need to get out of here." He's pushing people to get to her.
And I believe right before this, we actually see they start with a shot. This is the shot in the sky, right?
Before the party starts.
He starts. Yeah, when he departs, and we start to see the fireworks, and then the fireworks turn into other stuff.
No, but the
Watcher. The Watchers.
Oh yeah, yeah. We see the Watcher when it pans down. I mean, we see. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure when it intercuts, but yes.
I think it's before the party starts. I think they're showing the where the party's going to be at, and they pan down into the party itself.
Yeah. So the Watcher is present, which means some shit's going to go down. It is indeed. Oh, sorry, Kareem, go ahead.
No. I thought, to your point, I think it's just kind of cool because they're kind of interconnecting some of the MCU stuff. Mm-hmm. If people don't know who this character is and they only know him from the MCU, they're at least showing like, hey, this character does exist in this cartoon universe as well.
The Watcher also appeared in a previous episode of the X-Men as well.
Of the X-Men cartoon, right?
What's up? Yeah, in the original cartoon series, he appeared there.
Oh, never mind then.
Very similar. Well, I mean, he also wasn't introduced. It's just kind of the similar, like, those clouds, those Watcher over there. You should watch this. Okay. Something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So the Grizzle guy comes in and I think runs into Madeline, is wide-eyed, explaining to her that he is coming, I think is what he says, or is able to mumble out. She explains like, hey, she recognizes him somewhat by his eyes. This episode keeps referring to the eyes several times. And then he finally says something in his mind triggers where he finally realizes that's his mom, I guess from the memory that was implanted in his head from the previous episode when he was a child. He kind of puts two and two together. And then apologizes right before he's phased back into his timeline, we're assuming.
Yeah. Body slide by one. Troop out of there.
Yeah. And that's when everything goes to shit. We get a giant green explosion and we get this really cool, like, fading of the noise in and out, some screams, blackout, and we see Rogue lifting, a piece of building off of her. Magneto comes bursting out of something as well, and they realize they're trying to figure out what the hell just blew up the building they were all dancing in. Now, mind you, prior to him, I guess between Cable phasing out and that green explosion, you see other green explosions happening in the background, which look like fireworks a little bit. So there were other attacks that were happening before it hit them specifically, but now we see people screaming, running, and then another green blast vaporizes a bunch of people, destroys the building, and they get a focus on what is shooting, and it's the face of a Sentinel, and starts killing other people. Like I said, we get Banshee dead, we get...
What in tarnation?
Go! Get to the gardens! Hurry!
I think right before it was supposed to hit Rogue and Magneto, Nightcrawler does his Nightcrawler thing and gets him out of there just barely.
Yeah.
He takes some damage. When they land in the new spot, Gambit's there to like say, hey, Nightcrawler's alive, but barely. And this Sentinel thing's been killing everybody.
It should be pointed out, this is a Godzilla-sized Sentinel. This is bigger than all.
I think it's what he says, right? That's Gambit's phrase.
I think they may even say kaiju, but it's also the Tri-Sentinel head as well, which was a creation that I think I know for a fact it's popped up in Spider-Man comics as well. Well, I mean, it's reused then, but it was created back. Like they had it in some Eric Larson era Spider-Man comics as well. Because it's when Spider-Man had his cosmic powers and he fought the Tri-Sentinel.
Yeah, so it's kind of an amalgamation of the two, of the giant Sentinel from E is for Extinction and the Tri.
And because
it looks like a giant roach.
Yeah, doesn't the one in E for Extinction also have the Tri-Sentinel head? Didn't they like repurpose that for it?
I don't remember. Probably.
So it has the thorax body, and this one is the same thing, but inside the body itself are other Sentinel, regular-sized giant Sentinels. So imagine a Sentinel that can carry hundreds of other Sentinels. That's how big we're talking.
It's a wild Sentinels is what they're getting at. Is that that's the from the E for Extinction timeline or storyline.
Yeah, so we get the destruction of Genosha in a very similar manner. This thing's going around destroying everything. We get some cool action sequences from Gambit once again. Him and Rogue go out on a mission to destroy the regular sized giant sentinels. Magneto decides to take on the giant Godzilla sentinel by himself with a train. Starts slapping that thing around. After he has, I think he has this vision of destruction and the Holocaust. This happens, I think, after he is knocked into his own or Xavier statue. That dude falls on more mutants, symbolic, very, very much. So.
Yeah, that part was rough because it's like you see it falling, and like the realization goes past him is that this is gonna fall and hurt all these people, and he can't do anything to stop it. Which it was
crushes him. Yeah,
and probably should have made it out of metal.
Ooh.
Just so you could be like, no, I got this one.
Yeah.
It's like, why they use plaster of Paris? It's really weird.
Weird. That's a lot of paper mache.
You're right.
Well, the Magneto statue is made out of metal. The Xavier one.
Yeah. Xavier was made out of. There you go.
So, like I said, he has a vision of the Holocaust happening and says, "Not again, or never again," I believe is his phrase, and that they will be avenged. The mutants that he just accidentally killed, and starts attacking the Sentinel with. And he also. Go ahead.
He also says the line too, like we will not wonder if we could have done more or we could not have saved more. Like he's like, which is it feels like a little bit of a nod to Schindler's List. It's like I could have got more out.
Yes,
and it's that moment of just like no, like we will not wonder how like if we could have done more to save these people.
At that point when Magneto gets saved, earlier before he goes to fight the giant Sentinel 1-on-1. He sends Rogue and Gambit to go save the Morlocks because the Morlocks are trapped and he had promised them that he would protect them. And the Morlocks, if anyone that knows the history of the Morlocks, they get crapped on a lot. So,
which I find ironic that they send them to go in and it's Gambit that shows up because Gambit doesn't have a very good track record with the Morlocks.
Yeah. In the comics, Gambit is actually part of the Mutant Massacre, kind of.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't talk. I guess in the comic, in the cartoon, we don't talk about that. That didn't necessarily happen. Maybe we don't know.
It's a nice nod as kind of like a redemption for Gambit.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, do they in the comic? Did they even see him, or he just leads them there and then realizes what's happening after the fact? Like I don't know if they're able to pinpoint him. Are they?
No. In the comic, it's actually not even revealed that he did it until years later. It's essentially a retcon.
No, but I'm saying he was right, but I'm saying like the Morlocks can be like he's the one who got us all killed. Like they don't even see him. He just says like, "Hey, this is where they're at." Okay,
right.
So even if they had whatever. Anyway, he ends up saving them with again another cool scene. Starts escorting them out, and when they get out of the building, that's when you see Magneto come flying across the screen, slams into a rock or whatever. He's getting tossed around by the Sentinel, which again they had this courageous moment where it looked like he's gonna be able to kind of defeat it a little bit with the train. But apparently this thing is that much more powerful that it ends up kicking his ass and knocking him back. And then it identifies, which I thought I wanted to get into this, which I thought they did the nod, another nod, where they said Omega level mutant and then shift over to Magneto. I was like, you sons of bitches. It was first looking at Gambit. I was like, yes, he's gonna get his due. And then they said, go fuck yourself. This is the reality. And it targets Magneto.
I mean, and I'm very curious, what is this entire Sentinel made out of? Because because it's a wild Sentinel, it's just kind of made out of whatever was nearby. And like, all of that's not ferrous metal, so he couldn't just be like bits and pieces. Like, he has to use the train. I mean, I know that it's just for story purposes, but like, all the parts that the Sentinel is, none of it's ferrous metal that you can pull apart. Come on now, like that's questionable, I guess. But then the little bits that are in there just shake the living shit out of him, like, and just use them as. I mean, there's things you could do. Come on.
If I'm trying to come up with something here, he is also reacting, trying to save people as well.
Yeah.
It's heat of battle, but you're right. It's all
he's on the back heel. It's all it's all
it's fine. I want to point out the animation throughout this entire sequence is amazing. They do such an incredible job. You really do feel the visceral panic and terror of what's going on. They show you from the ground level when the initial attack happens and they kind of blow up the gala, and you get that almost like Saving Private Ryan first person, what's going on, hear the ringing in your head, and then you see Rogue kind of regain her senses. It's just it's beautifully done, the entire thing.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. They saved their budget for this last like 10 minutes of the episode. Between across everyone, like I said, everyone's having a moment in this. Even the moment that Nightcrawler has, I thought was done pretty awesome. So we get the Sentinel recognizing that he's an Omega level mutant, so they focus his entire, blast or energy on Magneto, who puts up a shield.
The Morlocks at this point.
Well, because Gambit had just walked them across, and he can't fly over them, so they're all in the same area. It just happens to be that Rogue and Gambit are outside of this bubble that he creates initially, and then he shoos them off, puts them up against a pole, and kind of puts them in place so that they're not getting attacked by the blast. So Magneto's doing double the work. He's protecting the Morlocks from the blast, and he's also keeping Rogue and Gambit at bay. I think he at some point realizes that he's probably not going to make it, so he ends up covering Rogue and Gambit, who were about a few hundred yards away, and then does the sad German line of what does he say? Don't be afraid. I think it is at least translated on the show as that.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah. And he says it to Leech, which is super depressing because he had promised Leech that he would never have to be afraid again. Yeah. And he couldn't apparently maintain that promise. And so Leech looks up at him, and the Sentinel ends up eviscerating everyone in that bubble. Recognizes that the Omega level mutant's been taken care of and starts to turn away and walk away. Rogue, having watched the man that she previously loved, or at least liked a lot, die.
Well, real quick, point out he actually rejects Magneto as a lover when they're float dancing.
Oh yeah, we totally.
She says she's going to go with Gambit. She has the realization. Oh, I love him. So
yeah, she actually uses the same line that he used when he explained to her that it's more than I forget the exact word that he uses, but it's basically more than just touch. You love somebody, and so she
said it's more than a feeling.
She did it just like that too, and Magneto's like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, why? This isn't karaoke. Why would you do
this? She kisses Magneto, realizes that she's still in love with Gambit, and then we flash forward.
Carry on. I did real the show. Continue.
But either way, she's distraught that he's gone. She's in tears and wants to take out the Sentinel. Flies towards it. Gambit realizes that she's going to get killed when the Sentinel recognizes that she's coming because he's killed everything in its path so far, and Magneto's pretty powerful. So he decides to take his motorcycle that he's been using for the last 10 minutes to cut down other Sentinels, charges it up and throws it at Rogue to get her out of the way of an oncoming blast, which again would have killed her. And then the Sentinel targets Nightcrawler and then some remaining mutants on a rooftop. Nightcrawler's getting back to on his feet or whatever, and he's about to take them out, and Gambit decides to go after the Sentinel. He starts running after it. Sentinel shoots in front of him and creates this kind of wall thing. Gambit uses his leverage, jumps into the path of the Sentinel to kind of, I guess his plan was to hit it with a stick that was charged up, and then he could then do something else with it. But is intercepted by some random barbed piece that came out of the Sentinel and runs him through on his side or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, they put a wire out there. Yeah.
It catches him, brings him over, and kind of puts it, in its eyesight. Gambit uses his line about his name's Gambit, and which is the title of the episode, remember it, and he uses that being impaled to charge up the entire Sentinel, which I thought was pretty cool, and blow it up.
Gambit, see your bet and races.
No.
I'll always be in my favor. Remember it.
We are then shot over to the mansion, which is they're getting news coverage of the massacre, and they started explaining, how bad the graphic images they're about to see are. Cyclops is demanding to know how many are dead. No one answers because nobody knows. Beast has his head in his hands. Everyone's kind of super depressed. Then it cuts back to a very, very quiet scene, or you kind of hear some rubble falling, but that's about it. And you see Rogue holding Gambit or what's left of his body, crying over him, touching his face, caressing him, and realizing that nothing's happening because he's dead, because she has no gloves on. So normally if she were to touch him, she'd either drain his power or something would happen. They'd have a transfer of energy. But nothing's happening because he's dead. And this is what got me, because the scene cuts off with her still talking, but it's all black. And it's just the voice actress explaining that she can't feel him and crying a few cries or whatever. And then you get the very somber version of the X-Men theme song as you go to the ending credits. I thought that was super well done. Actually brought tears to my eyes because I'm like, that was a very super sad moment. It was very gutting for me. But I think if you watched this episode by now, everyone's had the reaction to it. And I think a lot of people had a very similar thing. Like, just the last 10 minutes of this episode were just a what the F moment for a lot of people because they throw so much at him.
It's a tonal change, but not one that does feels unearned. It's been pretty X-Men cartoony up to this point. It dealt with kind of serious issues and did that, but it was still very cartoony. And this is a shift, but it didn't feel like so out of left field because they kind of hinted that bad stuff was coming. So
yeah, it was a lot of foreshadowing for them. Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I would say my wife was like, she was wrecked. She's like, what did you just do to me? Like, what? How? She was not prepared. Unfortunately, I had it spoiled by the internet because people can't bother to be like, I just want to show the very last image from the movie and the thing, and just spoil for people because I'm a heartless piece of crap. And so it's like I knew what was going to come, and I just especially like seeing the title, like it was always one of my favorite. Like as a kid, when they were fighting, I want to say they were fighting the Dark Riders in the cartoon, but that's when Gambit said like the name's Gambit, blows up a dude, remember it. Like I love that line. It was always fun as a kid to say stuff like that. Or kinetic card from the game, but like so see that line in the beginning, like, oh, this is gonna be they're gonna hit it hard, and it's really powerful. And to
your point, Ken, when I saw that title, I was like, oh, Gambit's going to. I thought he was going to I thought he was going to be toxic and have this whole breakup with Rogue and be an asshole about it, and then leave, which is why I was like, oh, okay, I see the title. I get that. I didn't obviously see what was to have any clue that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Not to that extent. And, the way they show it too, like I said, it's to Pat's point with the animation and everything, it was very visceral. The way he gets stabbed and the way you're just kind of like, up until this point, he'd been rocking everything. Like he'd already killed a few Sentinels. He'd been kind of, doing his thing. And it didn't seem like they were going to, you'd already just killed off Magneto 5 minutes prior. So, like,
I don't think he killed him off though.
Fair enough.
He's knocked out. So I think that's all.
At least as the show is concerned.
Oh, I just realized he's next to Leech. Leech could also have been like, okay, turn off everyone's powers. Now it won't register for the Sentinel. So that's why it no longer reads the Omega level Sentinel the Omega level threat. It's like, I don't see any more mutant powers down there because Leech turned them all off.
That's a possibility. Right. Definitely.
Because he's just like, no, if they think we're dead, we're dead. Like, we're all sleeping here. Like, because I think Magneto's coming back.
I think Magneto plans on
camera, right?
That's what that's the thought too. Sorry, Pat.
I'm sorry. I jumped in. No, I was saying Leech also makes it where you can't be seen on camera too, right? We're going to work that in as well.
We're going to work that in, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I did this. I did it twice.
Definitely.
Evolution.
Yeah. At this point, the way the show's going, that I wouldn't, I'm not going to say no to any option. I think they've done a good job of commingling a lot of stories. I wouldn't say effortlessly because I don't know how much time it took to do all this, but it seems
you could say seamlessly. Fluid. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, and very much so.
And so we could definitely as we're starting to go for me, like I did watch today's episode, so I know where the next episode goes.
Me too.
But there is also like the idea of like, how do we step past this? And it's like with our own future knowledge and stuff, because we know that a lot of this particular episode pulls from E is for Extinction. In that, spoilers for the comic, is when we get the introduction of secondary mutations because Emma Frost survives, but she's one of the few survivors because she gets her diamond form here. Could we be seeing that this season? Which I mean, Emma Frost is a big enough player to get that moment come up. It'd be surprising to see that already here in '97, but we're kind of okay. Like they're picking and choosing what they wanted to do, and it's definitely it's done very well. So
I mean,
can see
you're down Magneto, you're down Xavier, you're down Gambit, you're down Bishop. Like I could see them starting to filter, at least for the next episode.
Storm, you're still down Storm.
You're
right
down
now.
Storm. So I'm like, I can see them filtering in new X-Men to be like, hey, this is your new X-Men team until, at some point, hopefully Cable fixes some of this, or, maybe we get some mutant protocols from, like, again, the Greco era or something like that, to where, you get some of these old mainstays back. And I think Emma would be a good fill-in for them, especially if, Jean kind of having her issues being a telepath. Here's a more steady telepath for you guys right now.
Yeah. Do we are we gonna, from here, are we going to move into kind of just like speculation and ideas? Because I just want to have a one question conversation about the Omega level mutant thing, because I'm still, as a Gambit fan, I've always wanted that.
Mm-hmm. But I wanted to understand what the classification is for Omega level mutants, and is there another mutant that we know of in the X-Men universe that has Gambit's powers or power set?
That has
it's
Gambit's
it's not
specific power set. No.
Yeah.
It's not that you're the best at your power. It is that you have an unlimited potential to use your power. So that's why, Jean Grey is an Omega level mutant, because.
But I'm wondering, like, how does the Sentinel make that calculation on the fly?
It has. I don't know if you've ever seen a show called Dragon Ball Z. It has a little like viewfinder on the side of its head as part of its integrated.
Power levels 8,000. How? Wait, it's over 9.
Achita, what did you say his power level is? It's over 9,000. 9,000.
And it's like, she's over 9,000.
Anything over 9,000, immediately Omega level. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, because I'm just saying, like, you classified Magneto as an Omega level mutant, but it was Gambit that took you out.
Well, that doesn't mean.
Well, I mean, yeah. Go for it.
Well, we don't. The argument is that Gambit, there is an upper limit to what Gambit can do. He can only charge so much. Now, did he overcharge, and that's partially the reason he died? Maybe. I don't know. But it's also Omega level is always a little. It's whatever you need it to be for the writer at the time as well.
Okay. Because, like, Jean's considered Omega level, right?
Yes.
But not Xavier.
No.
Which I find interesting.
Nor is Scott.
I pulled up a quick for I pulled up a quick list from fandom the Marvel, the X-Men Wikia, and there's about like 15-ish characters that are on there.
I think the total is 25
that are
right
considered Omega level mutants. And I know that from the ongoing series in the comic or in the show, or what do you mean?
In the Marvel universe, in the Marvel
Sorry, I think I've
seen 25 Omega level mutants.
Black gentleman.
Well, because we have Polaris and we have Magneto, right? And Polaris isn't considered an Omega level mutant, but Magneto is. Right?
Yeah, Magneto is an Omega level mutant. Polaris is not, because Polaris doesn't have the same lack of upper bounds that Magneto has. A lot of the Omega level mutants.
Is there a reason why she doesn't?
The writer. They just decided, like, Magneto can do this much and Polaris isn't as powerful. That's all.
I just feel like there's no reason why her potential couldn't be Magneto's as well.
Once again, we are just at the fiat of the writer.
Skill, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I'm acknowledging what you guys are saying, and I'm not arguing against you guys. I'm just continuing this argument.
Feels like you are.
No. You guys are absolutely correct. It is up to the writer, because I mean, Iceman became an Omega level mutant, became one. Like he's now considered one.
Yeah, and it's one of these two, like, where in like some of the stories, I know there's a point where Emma Frost takes over. Spoilers for the comics, folks. Emma Frost takes over Bobby Drake's mind. It's like, she's trying to live, so she uses Bobby to save herself. And like, and he's like, he admits later on, like, Yeah, she's like, I never thought of trying that. Like, why not? And like, that's where he has potential. And I was trying to say earlier, but my signal was bad because I opened up another window. Is that there was an ongoing series where there's an alternate timeline where Gambit is Omega level mutant because he never had his powers capped by Mr. Sinister, and so like there are opportunities out there, but it's to the point of it always comes down to the writer. Like there are ones who are clearly Omega level, like you have David Heller, who is Professor X's son, who's like can warp reality, I'm thinking Proteus.
Legion?
I know I was thinking Legion is David Heller, Proteus is. He's also Moira McTaggart. Yeah, it's like there's a bunch of different people out there who are like just can alter reality. Is almost like
Franklin, right? Franklin Richards.
If he's a mutant currently, sure, that's a discussion for another podcast, I suppose. Sadly,
Okay.
But yeah, so like there are Jamie Braddock.
And what is the bad guy from the Captain Britain comic? He appeared in Outer World.
Oh, yeah, he's the other brother, much like Mikhail Rasputin. He's the other brother who also has like crazy level powers and stuff.
Just a lot of crazy level a lot of reality warpers out there.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, I was like, I felt like I was under the impression that it was like, you were the best, particularly at that skill set, but you just sank up levels. And I wonder if that's by like things demonstrated that the Sentinels have recorded. Like we've seen them do these things. This is why we consider them that. Because I'm like, just looking at them, you couldn't imagine how creative they're going to be with what they do. Because again, they didn't see Gambit coming. They saw Magneto coming.
Yeah,
and they were able to pretty much snuff him out. But it was essentially Gambit's creativity and using his powers that got the Sentinel in the very end.
We also don't know how they're doing it because Magneto's a known entity. Like the Omega level mutants they targeted were known entities. Like, yeah, we know how powerful they are. So it may be there's not a power reading. It may be just a database like, yep, that's an Omega. Get him. We know what he can do.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
I'm sad.
And
now,
then
guys.
Is Rogue considered one?
No,
Interesting, because she could have all the powers.
she could, but I mean, there's she's shown that she doesn't always keep the powers. And like sometimes they'll run out, and so there's that aspect of it. One of the only reasons she kept Captain Marvel's powers because they were like Kree based, and
Captain Marvel's a bitch.
I mean, that's a discussion for another podcast, I suppose.
She's a cat.
She's a
there you go. Well, there was also like, I mean, she's gotten to the point where she can absorb powers without touching anybody now, though. Like she can consciously do it.
Oh yeah, no, she's getting power creeped hardcore
in the comics, not in the show, but yeah,
correct in the comics.
Yeah. There is. So here's the thing. Here's the question that I pose for you folks. What do we think? What do we think is going to happen with Gambit being gone? How is this going to be? Are we going to go on with this? What's the thought there?
Yeah, I wonder what version of Rogue do we get then? I mean, what do you think they'll pull from now?
I have an answer, but I also posed the question, so that's why I was.
To answer your question more directly, yes, they're going to go on without Gambit for I think the remainder of this season. They may bring him back towards the end if they can figure out a way to like kind of like reset this. I don't think he's gonna be gone out of the series in season 2, but I think in order for this episode to have more of a lasting effect, they're gonna keep him gone for a quick minute.
I really think we're heading towards Krakauer level of shenanigans with bringing back people to life. I think that is where we end up. I don't know if we end up like the very end of this season, like Xavier comes back from the bird people and like goes, "Hey guys, guess what?
Birdman's back.
It's time for Birdman to fly." Does a couple sweet ducks.
So I have a theory that's as time has progressed and the story's just gone on, I have ideas and machinations for where they're going. So we've seeded a bit that Cable's coming here, and he's like, he's coming, blah blah blah. You gotta stop it. There's times like for like a week there, I'm like, oh, are they gonna do Cassandra Nova? Because we've got potentially Cassandra Nova in the Deadpool Wolverine movie. People are gonna learn who this character is. There's nods and stuff there. But there's also just a long history of, especially in this cartoon, of Cable being the opposite to Apocalypse. He's there to fight Apocalypse. He was essentially Mr. Sinister doesn't want to be controlled by Apocalypse anymore, so he's like, I'm going to put pieces, chess pieces in place to take him down. And so Apocalypse coming is, in my head, Apocalypse is in the horizon. So if you'll turn your attention to the Discord chat, you'll see an image that might give you an idea of where I think they're going next with Gambit. For those that are at home, they might be remembering, Gambit became a Horseman of Apocalypse. He was Death. And there was in that time frame, we also saw Sunfire, who we have seen in the cartoon, who was Famine. We saw Pestilence, which was Polaris. Angel's dead. I mean, Angel. I think did we see Angel there? I thought we saw Angel on Genosha. Did we see him there?
Yeah, that's the thing. Angel is
and Mark is already
by Sid.
Right. Oh yeah.
Sorry, so it was. Say who was who again, please, one more time.
In the Horseman set that I'm thinking of, it was Polaris as Pestilence, Sunfire as Famine, Gambit as Death, and then a new character as the other one that I can't think of. War. Thank you. And so it's like those were the four pieces. But we've also had Wolverine as Death. We've had Archangel as Death. We've had other characters that we've had Morlocks that were there as well. So it's like there's plenty of like characters that we saw perish in this attack could very much come back as Apocalypse's weapons to be like, oh yeah, I was just setting the board so that I could have my pieces here as well. And like, imagine Rogue having to fight off. I mean, it when it happened in the comics, it was pretty like rough. But imagine that happening here too. Like this could be, I don't know. Maybe it's tinfoil hat tier stuff, but I'm like, that'd be some chess pieces right there.
They're pulling from all over the place. We're not going to get the 12, are we? Because that would not be good.
Oh, I hope not.
I don't.
That's.
I hope not. That. People are scratching their head.
I don't want to. 12 is the 12 is an Apocalypse story about gathering the 12 mutants to stop Apocalypse, but turns out it's Apocalypse's scheme so that he can Apocalypse himself, whatever. Ends up Scott Summer dies. Cyclops dies for a minute, comes back, and that's what starts all the problems with him and Jean in the comic. It's a hot mess that everyone would like to forget.
I feel like we're going to get a little bit of the mashup of what's happening currently in the Fall of Krakoa sort of thing. We're getting a mix of Sinister plus humans dislike mutants situation going on.
So
because we saw the Friends of Humanity and we saw them messing around with pieces of giant Sentinels left over or whatever. So they have access to parts of Sentinels. We also see, to Ken's point, what's the guy that was in the picture with Forge?
Oh, Bastion.
So
some people think we saw Bastion on Genosha too. Some people have said that.
We're dealing with Sentinels. And to see, I would assume an advanced version of a Sentinel will be able to concoct this kaiju Sentinel somehow. He's had the time and the resources to do that. So we're going to get versions of Sentinels, and I think that'll lead to maybe a Nimrod situation with Cable and some other people. Maybe we get a future shot of, or maybe a present shot of Cable coming back to kind of reset some of this Friends of Humanity / Sinister combination stuff. And I think that'll help fast forward from 97 to a lot of the stuff we're seeing now.
So, sorry, go ahead, Ken.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask, so Ken, who's behind the Sentinel attack? You are saying Apocalypse.
Apocalypse and his machinations, because at the root of it, Apocalypse is always pushing for, he's like survival of the fittest. If you didn't live through this attack, that's the reasoning behind it. Because it is kind of questionable, why would Apocalypse, what does he have to gain from the Sentinel attack if it's not Cassandra Nova, which I also thought it could be Cassandra Nova for a good amount of time.
I mean, it still can be.
Right, it still could be, and then also she could be working with Apocalypse. Who knows? It could be any number of things because comics, and they're pulling from a lot of stuff. But just when I started to think about why, how do we handle Gambit's death moving forward? Gambit can come back as Death and or as a different, whichever one you want to do it. He could be any of the Horsemen, and you could even do oh no, we already did Archangel as that, so maybe not him. But to my point, like he can come back, and that would push Apocalypse's storyline further up, and kind of get us moving towards that storyline. Which I mean, there's plenty of other storylines to pull from as well, but I just thought that would be an interesting way to bring Gambit back.
In this episode, at the very intro, they show Apocalypse. They've shown him twice, I think, in the intro already, being fought by X-Men. So they're hinting at
and then
being around at some point.
Yeah.
I really thought I got off the Cassandra Nova train. I don't know why. No, I don't think that's it.
The only reason why I got off it was because Xavier's dead. Like her whole reason for exacting the Genosha massacre was to get back at Xavier's, particularly. And if he's dead, I'm like, I don't see her.
I mean, he's got a big ass statue in Genosha. Like, and it's the first one that gets destroyed, not Magneto's.
Right, but the idea, well, fair enough. But I think the idea is to watch him watch the, like, she wants to be sitting next to him with tears in his eyes as he watches his X-Men and mutants in his dream die. Yeah. If he's already dead, what's the point of doing this? Like, who is it hurting other than
destroy his?
We don't know her.
I agree. I'm not. I really thought we were dealing with like a Nimrod, Bastion, Omega Sentinel. That was my this is a Cable problem. It's future Sentinels coming back doing it. But the Apocalypse stuff makes a lot of sense. Kareem, who you got?
I got Sentinels. Sentinels and humans seem to be at least so far. This is the two things they've actually presented. Maybe I'm just not being more as creative as Kid is. Like I can see merit to what he's saying, wholeheartedly. I'm just being very basic by like, hey, they showed us Sentinels. They showed us humans. What's the guy's name that had the gun? The Executioner. Like that's what they've shown us so far. And there is future precedent in the storylines we're getting now that have a very similar tone. Like again, the Fall of Krakoa is very in line with this, massacre at whatever gala ball this is. Like it almost kind of mirrors that with a little bit of the visuals from E is for Extinction. So I can see them saying like, hey, it's just that. It's just humans. And Sentinels got together and said, you know what? Let's get rid of the mutants. And I think Bastion being a future version of a Sentinel is like, hey, I know how to get us there. We'll start off with this giant one and it'll evolve into what I am now, which means that we'll at some point get Nimrod, because I think isn't he like an evolution of Nimrod at some or to a certain extent? Or is it the other way around?
We've already had Nimrod in the original series.
I think,
So it's like,
but he's from the future.
Right. He's from the future and it's a whole time travel thing. But Bastion is kind of like he's the missing link that you're piloting towards, is that Bastion's there in the middle, and we saw half of an image of him in the Life and Death.
He at least exists in this universe.
Yeah, so we've had kind of nods to it, and Operation Zero Tolerance can definitely be there, and that could just end up being the storyline too, and that's definitely viable.
I mean, it plays into the Forge aspect of it, because now we can bring if for whatever reason Forge and Storm play back into the story somehow, he'll slot right back in. He'll be like, hey, I know. We at least know he knows the one guy from the past version of Mystique or whatever.
Yeah. He's tied to the story. So that's definitely possible. And I'm not even saying, like I said, the Apocalypse thing could be could be a crazy tinfoil hat thing. Like certain pieces of a Cable being there and saying like he's coming, like that's where my thought would be.
How many more episodes
I can absolutely.
Think I believe there's 10, right?
Is it 10? Okay, so we got.
I think so.
We got 5. Let's get rid of half of
that story.
The reason why I still thought it could have been Cassandra Nova when he said he is, because Cassandra Nova is bald. So for all Cable knows, it is a he to him if he's only seen her from afar.
Yeah, that's been the thing that a lot of people are saying is like he genders the villain in his statement, like, oh, he is coming. It's like, was he gendering the Sentinels? They're like, oh, the Sentinel's coming, he is coming. Or is it Apocalypse? Is it Mr. Sinister? Because we haven't really had any Apocalypse this season. We've had a lot of Mr. Sinister. So it's like, is it just him? Like it is a bit nebulous, so it could be any like.
But again, why would Sinister destroy all that sweet genetics that he needs?
He's already copied all of them. He's like, they're all there. I've already got copies of those in my vial case. Like, I'm looking for new. I need new toys. I don't care.
New hotness.
I feel like this because I feel like the Sentinels had like an unmitigated amount of like destruction in their protocols. Like it wasn't like grab me mutants that I need. It was like destroy whatever you see that moves.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I think like the apocalypse, survival of the fittest angle.
I'm just saying, as far as Sinister being behind it, I feel like he would have been like, no, capture these people, bring them back to me so I can play with them, versus like eviscerate them.
Yeah.
Also,
it's also like one works for the other too. So it's like there's like,
are we finally sold on what's the blonde lady's name? Being Mystique.
There's
two scenes
like
in this,
two looks, where you're like, Val, what's going on here?
Yeah, when Rogue shows up, or when Magneto explains that he had made the decision to be the leader of Genosha, if Rogue would be by his side, and Val very earnestly asks, like, what did she say? Then when Rogue shows up, she's shocked, and Magneto just pushes her aside. You can see this kind of like deflation in her as he goes to meet Rogue. That was, one-ish scene combined together. And then the look of terror in her face when the Sentinels are destroying mutants. Now, it could have just been because the Sentinels were destroying things that were moving. Yeah. But I wonder if she realizes that, or if she thought, like, hey, I am also a mutant. This thing will shoot and kill me as well.
Yeah.
But nobody.
I was curious, but it's one of the things that's like, once it's revealed, then we'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. We call
once you say it's Mystique, then I wonder, okay, did she have a hand in this?
Yeah,
because
I feel like she might have had a hand in setting it up, but not maybe the amount of destruction that followed.
Yeah,
she didn't know the level of what. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It could be Sinister mixed with humans, and he also too was like, you know what? I signed on to get rid of specific mutants, and you guys went a little bit too far. Maybe that was his deal in this whole thing.
So, the next episodes we have Bright Eyes, Kareem referencing possibly, Cyclops. Yes. And then that's episode 7. 8, 9, and 10 are all Tolerance's Extinction, part 1, 2, and 3.
That's the finale.
And crazy enough, like as much as, and I love why I sent this message to us in the Discord chatting, that I love watching people's reactions to this because it reminded me of like Endgame, the way that like a lot of people had very similar reactions to this, and it was very like visceral for a lot of people who were watching it. I think someone had put together like a montage of people's reactions to it, and a lot of them are very similar, but it gave you that same kind of communal emotional feel that people got when Cap picks up the hammer in Endgame, and you're just like, everyone's like going crazy, or when everyone starts coming out of the portals at the right before he says Avengers Assemble, that cathartic, like, oh, it's happening.
But the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's racing.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yo,
this is the name is here. This is MVP. Oh, this is crazy. I'm not even shut up. Oh, go, boy. He's gonna eliminate that thing. That must be his death rattle.
Goodbye.
He's still hurting though. He's gonna die too though. Both of them? Because that one Red Gambit went out like a OG, triple OG. Golly.
She lost both.
Yeah. She finally gets his chance to touch him though.
And this, but I said all that to say that I think is his name Bo? The writer?
Derek?
Of this?
Oh. Yeah, the showrunner, you mean?
Showrunner / co-writer, whatever, for these episodes. He's back online talking about the episodes, and he's saying that this mid-season episode pales in comparison with, I guess, they have in the later episodes. So I don't know, more people are gonna die, or how many more heartstrings he's gonna pull on, but apparently, like, be prepared that like shit's about to hit the fan later on in this show. If this is what he's saying, like, this is a great episode, but the other episodes that are to follow bring a lot more, and you'll have much more interesting reactions to those. And I was like, wow, that's saying a lot.
I do have a question as someone that has not seen episode 6. Were you disappointed or deflated after watching it?
No,
neither.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes after a big episode like this, you know, it can be like, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely kind of my kind of hiccup and pain when people are saying like everything more from Marvel since Endgame has been crap, and I'm like if you raise the bar so high,
kid,
there's gonna
stop calling me out, bitch.
Yeah, listen up, buddy. But there's certain like you have your expectation raised so high. I think that I was expecting like a mixtape, like a good mixtape. You're gonna have highs and lows, and like you're gonna have an episode that's not gonna be like after such a big moment like that. You got to cool it down a minute. You know, you got to.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, this episode's good. It tells the story it needs to tell, and also I was still like good with it.
To be honest with you, after having watched it, I was like, watching 5 and then watching 6, I was like, what they present, I don't know how you follow that. Like, if you try to top it, you can, I feel like you could fall easily into a little try hard kind of episode where that's where it really falls. Or if you kind of pace it like Ken's saying, like a mixtape, where it's like, all right, well, now that that's been punctuated, let's start the next sentence and we'll work our way back up to another crescendo. And so I can see some people saying like, oh, this doesn't match the same intensity as the previous episode, but I don't think it was meant to. I don't think that's the way that the show's designed. But again, it's still very good.
Yeah. And that's also another argument for episodic television being back of like, oh, we had a week to digest that last episode and pick it apart with friends and talk about it. And then this next episode, we didn't have to watch it back to back and just like cram each episode down our, like, it's like, oh no, we got to go through and enjoy the episode and experience it as a community, if that's how you were able to do it. And that was good. And I was like, I'm just still on I enjoy episodic television and I like that model still. But I also did just run through all of Fallout. So like it depends on the storytelling. So there is that.
It reminded me also too of Stranger Things when they had the Max episode, because that, I think, they dropped all of that one, right?
Yeah. Stranger Things.
Was that week to week?
No,
it was Netflix. Stranger Things is all. They drop it all at once.
But I felt like everyone, for whatever reason, maybe everyone just binged through it, or maybe because of the number of episodes that were released at one time. I think it was like 4 or 5, right? And then they finished it up the second half of the season. But when everyone got to the Max episode, I felt like everyone online had that same exact reactionary time frame. Like it wasn't like, oh, I saw it 3 weeks ago and I'm feeling it. It was like everyone got to that exact episode, and the internet was just like having a moment that they all sat in. And I think that's also when, what was the name of the song? Like skyrocketed on the charts.
Run Up That Hill.
Exactly.
Well,
and I feel like that's what this has as well. So to both your points, I think you could have it an episodic thing, but I think it's the timing on how you release them versus like, maybe just offering only 4 episodes and that 4th one being the finale one.
With Stranger Things, and this happens a lot. We see this happen a lot with the full drops of entire series or entire seasons. I just feel like the internet gets so excited, so everyone feels like I have to watch it right now, which then ramps up the excitement because you don't want to miss the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of drives that as well. I do enjoy the way we're doing X-Men, just the way I like to ingest television. Like I'm only watching 1 episode of Fallout a night. I don't want to sit there. I want to watch it, think about it, and then go to the next one. I don't want to watch 8 hours and not remember 6 of them because it was all just a blur. So
yeah, and I still think it also depends on the storytelling. Like if the storytelling is this storytelling is peak for just episodic, whereas like there's other shows that are just like just feed them into my eye holes. Yeah.
Well, and I'll say this one last thing. I had mentioned this to I think Ken in a different chat. I don't know how you follow up, and again, they're not 1-to-1, but you follow up a live action X-Men after this, particularly even after this 5th episode, because the way that they're doing these stories, the way that this animation is going, the voice acting, again, I want to credit all the voice actors for this, all the writers on this, obviously all the animators, but like it's just being done so well at such a high level. Like if anybody who is being introduced to the X-Men just now. Like they didn't watch 90s cartoon. They didn't read any of the comics. They're just like, hey, you know what? Disney Plus has a Marvel related show. I want to watch it. And this is their introduction to X-Men. I feel like the movie is going to be lacking somewhat.
No, they're going to be black leather. It's going to be cool. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's, I mean, just because I think like the next live action X-Men we get is Deadpool 3, Deadpool and Wolverine. So it's
he's essentially he's all the X-Men so far.
Right. So what it's just it's just a different flavor. It's like they're not going to be trying to tell this epic story of mutants versus this. It's going to be the cluster, throwing everything against the wall, see what explodes, rubber chicken that is Deadpool. So it's like there's going to be different presentations that people can kind of.
But my point is that because Deadpool he's allowed to play on the fringes, which is why you get Negasonic as a X-Men character. You get Colossus, which is he's a mainstay, but you don't really get the core. You don't get Cyclops. You don't get Gambit. You don't get Rogue. You don't get Storm. You don't get any of those people. But at some point, Marvel's going to have to face that boulder. They're going to have to introduce those characters, and they're not going to be able to just play on the edges of like Deadpool. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like they've set the bar so high with this animated show that a live action is inherently just going to be underneath that. And I don't even know if it's going to be like slightly underneath or really you're going to be disappointed. Like, you know what? The show did it better.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think we'll still get something good, but I also think that it's just hard to kind of judge people's expectations to be like, to know, because how many of them are going to watch this? How many will have watched this but not watched any of the X-Men movies prior? So it's like they have to have experienced other X-Men.
But I think the X-Men movies prior weren't good though. Like that's the other issue. Is like, yeah, you can compare it to trash and be like,
First Class had some great moments.
All right, different conversation for another day, but we do need to rank the X-Men movies at some point.
We'll do that to a different point.
I'd love to hear.
I'll leave that out there. We'll leave it unanswered because it can't be answered tonight. So thank everyone for listening. Hope you guys got a chance to watch.
Yes.
Got a chance to watch this episode.
Comment, subscribe.
If not, go ahead and watch it. Go ahead and read some of these comics. I think that'll help a lot of people get some added context. So if you need to read them digitally, if you have a local comic shop, go visit it.
Where you want to start is X-Men from 1996 to 1999. That's what you want to read right there.
Age of Apocalypse, everybody. That's what got a lot of people
right after.
on board.
Right after. The day after Age of Apocalypse. Oh God, are we gonna? Oh, we like you said, we kind of did. We kind of didn't. I want Age of Apocalypse proper. All right, never mind. I'm gonna ramble.
I'd be done.
I'm done. Good night, everybody.
I want Onslaught. That's what I want to get to.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But, I mean, I'd be down.
I think they're gonna do it better than the comic.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing is they'll do it within an episode's length, like 27 solid minutes.
That's about what it should have taken, given what they had in the comic. Could have done that.
Agree. I totally agree. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.